The first episode of The Gardener begins with a chilling murder at the beach, setting a dark tone for the series. Narration comes from China, the mother of Elmer, the murderer. As the scene unfolds, China reflects on the chain of events that brought them here. Elmer's story is tragic from the start. When he was 6, a terrible accident severely damaged his brain, especially the part responsible for emotions. As a result, Elmer grew up emotionally numb, disconnected from the world in a way most people can't imagine. Despite this, he found peace among plants. Gardening became his true language, a place where he could create beauty and feel a sense of belonging, even without understanding feelings like joy or pride. However, Elmer's quiet life has a monstrous side. Under China's guidance, he occasionally murders, using his victims' bodies as fertilizer for his breathtaking gardens. China knows everything but sees it as a necessary evil. Over the years, she has trained Elmer to mimic emotions, teaching him how to act normal around others. But no matter how much he imitates, his real home remains with his plants. On the other side of town, detectives Toz and Kara arrive at the crime scene. They find signs of a staged drowning, a man's belongings neatly left on the sand. The victim is Anton, a violent husband and father. His wife had secretly hired China and Elmer to get rid of him. Anton's history of domestic abuse made it easy for the detectives to believe he might have drowned after a drunken swim, but Kara remains suspicious, sensing there's more to the story. Meanwhile, China hides the payment for Anton's murder in a secret spot, daydreaming about using the money to reclaim her family's old house in Mexico, a future she clings to tightly. As days pass, Elmer continues working in his garden, preparing for the prestigious Garden of the Year competition. China urges him to practice public speaking, hoping he can charm the judges if he wins. Elmer is uncertain about speaking in public but willing to try, wanting to make his mother proud in his own way. Then enters a new complication, Isabella, a wealthy and grieving mother. She offers China a new job, kill a young woman named Violeta, whom she blames for her son's death months earlier. Although China warns her that such things take time, the payment is too tempting to resist, especially with the Mexican house still in her dreams. China convinces Elmer to accept the mission, promising it'll be the last one. Elmer starts tracking Violeta, first online and then in person. However, life has other plans. During one of his surveillance outings, Elmer feels dizzy and faints in the town square. Unexpectedly, Violeta, his intended victim, rushes to his aid, taking him to a nearby cafe and buying him something sweet to help. Their conversation is casual and warm, a rare moment of connection for Elmer. Neither asks the other's name, making it an encounter full of mystery and strange comfort. For the first time, Elmer feels something unfamiliar stirring inside him. That night, still haunted by the encounter, Elmer and China watch Titanic. As Jack's tragic fate unfolds on screen, Elmer experiences something he never has before, genuine sadness. He cries alone in his room, overwhelmed by emotions he thought were forever out of reach. China, unaware of this transformation, continues treating him like her emotionless child. Meanwhile, Violeta tells her friends about the strange but charming man she met, unaware of his original deadly intentions. At the same time, Isabella keeps harassing Violeta through anonymous phone calls, adding another layer of danger to the young woman's life. At the police station, tensions flare between Kara and Toz, personal emotions bleeding into their professional lives, hinting at future conflicts in the investigation. Finally, the day of the Garden Awards arrives. Elmer wins the coveted Garden of the Year title, giving a touching speech just as China had rehearsed with him. For the first time, though, Elmer's words carry a hint of genuine feeling, leaving China both proud and uneasy. At the after-party, Violeta sees Elmer's photo in the newspaper and decides to find him. Their reunion feels almost fated. As they talk and laugh, Elmer's inner conflict grows. He's drawn to her kindness, but he's also haunted by his original mission. China, observing from a distance, realizes the danger of Elmer getting close to his target. She confronts him afterward, warning him to stay focused. Elmer reassures her that everything is under control. But the next day, When he finally moves to kill Violeta, she surprises him again by kissing him. In that one moment, everything shifts. Elmer's cold, calculated world crashes into something terrifying and beautiful, real human connection. And for the first time in his life, Elmer isn't sure if he can follow the plan. Episode 2 picks up right where the story left off, with Elmer and Violeta enjoying their impromptu date. They bond over planting a tree, chatting comfortably, and Violeta even invites him for coffee afterward. Their connection grows quickly, but it's abruptly interrupted when Mo, the best friend of Violeta's late boyfriend Exoyan, appears. Mo is aggressive and suspicious. Like Exoyan's mother, Isabella, Mo believes that Violeta is responsible for Exoyan's death. Violeta, however, insists that Exoyan took his own life, not that she caused it. For the first time in his life, Elmer feels genuine anger. In an emotional outburst, he confronts Mo and defends Violeta. Shaken by the encounter, Violeta ends their date, and Elmer, overwhelmed by emotions he doesn't fully understand, impulsively tracks Mo down and kills him, acting without thought or strategy. Elmer's decision shocks China when he shows up with a male body instead of Violeta's. When pressed, Elmer admits he's starting to experience emotions for the first time. China is stunned but tries to be supportive, assuring Elmer that he could never scare her. She lets him handle disposing of the body, though privately she's concerned about this new emotional instability. The next morning, China scolds Elmer for acting on impulse. She worries he might have left evidence behind, and she's right, Elmer did make mistakes, but Detective Kara is currently too distracted by personal issues with her partner Tours to notice. She's busy trying to set emotional boundaries after turning Tours down romantically. Meanwhile, China tries to teach Elmer the importance of emotional control. However, their lesson derails when she learns the real reason behind Mo's murder, Elmer's feelings for Violeta. Angry and desperate to steer him back on track, China argues with him. During the heated confrontation, Elmer suddenly faints and is rushed to the hospital. While waiting for news, China reflects on their tragic past. She remembers her life as a young actress, managed and abused by Tony, her boyfriend and agent. On the night of the accident that changed everything, China fled from Tony with little Elmer in tow. Distracted and arguing with Elmer over putting on a seatbelt, they crashed. The accident caused Elmer's brain damage and cost China her foot. Back in the present, doctors reveal that Elmer has a benign brain tumor, likely the cause of his sudden emotional awakening. Surgery is recommended, but Elmer is hesitant. He doesn't want to lose the newfound feelings he has just begun to experience. He pleads with China to cancel the job on Violeta. She agrees, but under two conditions: Elmer must get the surgery, and he must stay away from Violeta forever. China, trying to protect her son's fragile emotions, goes to Isabella to explain that the mission has complications. But Isabella refuses to back down. Consumed by grief and anger, she doubles the payment offer, insisting that Violeta must pay for her son's death. Tempted and desperate, China ultimately fails to cancel the job. Meanwhile, the police begin investigating Mo's disappearance. They question Violeta, who mentions Elmer as a witness to her last encounter with Mo. Suspicious but without proof, the detectives let her go for now. Violeta later visits Elmer's garden, inviting him to a party. Bound by his promise to China, Elmer turns her down, even though he longs to see her again. Later, China and Elmer voluntarily visit the police station to offer information about Mo. China skillfully provides Elmer with an alibi, and they are dismissed, but Detective Kara continues her investigations, now also questioning the circumstances surrounding Anton's death. Back at home, Elmer's struggle intensifies. He refuses to take his prescribed medication, fearing it will suppress his emotions. He tells China he wants to experience love, fully and without medical interference. Despite his promise, Elmer decides to attend Violeta's party. At the party, Elmer and Violeta share a night full of laughter, music, and genuine happiness, a world Elmer has never known before. Meanwhile, China stays at home, praying for strength and guidance from her deceased mother. Torn between love for her son and fear for his future, China concludes that Violeta is a dangerous distraction. In her mind, getting rid of Violeta is no longer just a job, it's a necessity. Episode 3 of The Gardener opens with China reflecting on the series of choices that led her to the present turmoil. Her son Elmer's newfound emotions have thrown her life into chaos, and she can't help but look back on how it all began. Years earlier, China's life took a darker turn when Tony, her abusive ex-boyfriend and former manager, randomly reappeared at their doorstep. Tony, ever the manipulator, convinced China to let him stay for a few days, claiming he needed a place to hide. It soon came out that Tony was running from allegations involving a minor. Despite China's repeated attempts to kick him out, Tony refused to leave. Each time he came back, he became more aggressive and violent, slowly breaking China's spirit. Young Elmer watched helplessly as his mother deteriorated under Tony's abuse. Realizing that China couldn't save herself, Elmer took matters into his own hands. Using his special ability with plants, he concocted a deadly poison and killed Tony. Rather than recoil in horror, China saw Elmer's action as a desperate, twisted act of love. To protect her son, she helped him dispose of the body, covering up the murder. This event marked the beginning of China's plan to exploit Elmer's disability for survival and eventually, profit. Fast forward to the present, Elmer and China's relationship is quickly falling apart. The growing wedge between them is named Violeta. Despite China's threats and warnings, Elmer continues to see Violeta. He demands his mother respect his choices, but China refuses to let go. Furious and betrayed, Elmer storms out to meet Violeta, leaving China seething at home. As Elmer and Violeta's bond deepens, China's resentment festers. Meanwhile, Isabella's patience is wearing thin. She pressures China to complete the job and have Violeta killed. Feeling backed into a corner, China decides to take matters into her own hands. China starts stalking Violeta, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. She finally sees her chance but hesitates when a student unknowingly interrupts her planned attack. Unable to go through with the murder, China shifts tactics. Instead of direct violence, she begins secretly drugging Elmer by slipping his prescribed medication into his food, hoping to dull his emotions and sever his attachment to Violeta. At the same time, detectives Kara and Turs continue investigating the pattern of missing persons cases. Their work leads them to discover a list of over 10 individuals who mysteriously vanished under similar suspicious circumstances. Though they haven't yet connected the dots to Elmer and China, their investigation is clearly heating up. Meanwhile, Elmer notices something strange. After spending a beautiful evening with Violeta watching a tragic movie, he feels no sadness. Alarmed, he questions his mother, but China skillfully denies any wrongdoing. Violeta faces her own struggles. Friends and family of Mo, still furious about his disappearance, continue to harass her. They refuse to believe her claims of innocence, hounding her with accusations and hostility. Despite the external pressure, Violeta seeks refuge in Elmer's company. Elmer plans a romantic date at a picturesque garden, and the two end up making love. However, Elmer is again disturbed to find himself emotionally numb. Unable to ignore the signs any longer, Elmer confronts China in a fit of rage. He tears apart their kitchen until he finds undeniable evidence that China has been drugging him. Heartbroken and furious, he tells her that their relationship is over and that he will never trust her again. Oblivious to the chaos unraveling between Elmer and his mother, Violeta tries to keep her life together. Sadly, her harassment escalates. Mo's friends and family vandalize her home with hateful slurs and plaster missing posters of Mo all over her walls. As Elmer and China's bond crumbles, Violeta remains a lightning rod for the anger and grief of everyone who believes she had a hand in Mo's disappearance. Meanwhile, the detectives inch closer to the truth, and tensions on all sides continue to mount, setting the stage for even darker twists ahead. Episode 4 opens with a flashback to the night Xoan died. After the tragic incident, Violeta's friend consoles her and encourages her to stop getting involved with needy men. Together, they come up with an alibi, revealing Violeta isn't as innocent as we first thought. In the present day, Violeta starts distancing herself from Elmer. Influenced by her friend's advice, she worries he's becoming too needy. While texting, she tells him she's busy with the kids and later declines his invitation to watch the meteor shower, saying she has plans with friends. Meanwhile, China continues manipulating Elmer, planting seeds of doubt about Violeta's feelings. She insists that in early stages of love, people don't prioritize friends, making Elmer even more desperate for Violeta's attention. He impulsively shows up during her outing with the kids, asking her to cancel her plans, but Violeta firmly asks for space. Elsewhere, detectives Kara and Toas seek the help of a serial killer expert to better understand their case. The expert rules out the possibility of a serial killer, suggesting instead that they are dealing with a professional assassin. Digging deeper, Kara begins to piece together more clues pointing toward this theory. At the girls' night, tensions rise when Violeta and Kataxa get into a heated argument about Elmer and Xoan. Frustrated, Violeta storms off and heads home. Meanwhile, China visits doctors to get updates about Elmer's condition, growing increasingly worried that he's running out of time. That evening, she continues sowing doubts in Elmer's mind, making him more paranoid about Violeta. The next day, Kara and Toas follow new leads in their investigation. When they inform Anton's wife they are changing their approach, she panics and inadvertently leads them closer to China's secret garden. Meanwhile, Violeta drops by Elmer's workplace. He is thrilled to see her, hoping to spend the morning together. But when Kataxa texts Violeta asking to meet up, Violeta bails on Elmer, angering him even more. As Violeta heads to the park to meet Kataxa, she catches the attention of Sabella, who quietly follows her. While Violeta and Kataxa patch up their friendship, Sabella seizes the opportunity to steal Violeta's dog. Realizing her dog is missing, Violeta storms over to Sabella's house and begs for its return. Sabella refuses, forcing Violeta to confess what happened the night Xoan died. In another flashback, it's revealed that Xoan threatened to jump off a bridge to get Violeta's attention. Instead of comforting him, Violeta mocked him for being cowardly. During their heated argument, Violeta pushed Xoan in anger. However, when talking to Sabella, Violeta lies and claims Xoan fell on his own while trying to climb back over the bridge's edge. After hearing the story, Sabella coldly asks Violeta to leave, admitting she took the dog as payback. Violeta slaps her, retrieves her dog, and leaves. She later calls Kataxa, who promises once again to protect her by maintaining the alibi. Back home, Elmer becomes increasingly anxious when Violeta ignores his calls and texts. Desperate, he drops by her place, only to be coldly turned away. That night, while sulking at home, China further fans the flames by showing him Violeta's social media activity, revealing that she lied about feeling sick and was actually out partying. Feeling betrayed, Elmer decides to confront Violeta. He waits outside her home and catches her returning from a night out, but she's not alone. To his horror, Violeta is kissing a random man she met at the club. Episode 5 opens with Elmer reeling from heartbreak after witnessing Violeta kissing another man. Furious and devastated, he takes his anger out on his plants, tearing apart his greenhouse while the painful memory replays in his mind. Meanwhile, China is secretly relieved that Violeta's mistake will make it easier for Elmer to move on, and she prays for his quick emotional recovery. After taking some time to calm down, Elmer decides to listen to China's advice and returns to the hospital for a checkup. There, the doctor gives him troubling news: the tumor in his brain is growing, and they must act fast. On the drive home, China, ever manipulative, seizes the moment to convince Elmer that the best solution to all his problems is to kill Violeta. Surprisingly, Elmer agrees, believing that it might be the only way to reclaim control over his life. As Elmer starts plotting, Violeta, racked with guilt and longing, reaches out to him. She asks to meet, and despite his anger, Elmer agrees, planning to use the opportunity to lure her to her death. Before he leaves, he even digs a grave for her. China, upon seeing this, eagerly calls Sabella to share the news that Violeta's end is near. Unbeknownst to Elmer and China, detectives Toas and Kara have been following Elmer, hoping to catch him in the act. However, when Violeta and Elmer meet up, things take a different turn. Violeta breaks down, apologizing sincerely for cheating and professing her love for Elmer. Still emotionally inexperienced and vulnerable, Elmer forgives her. Instead of carrying out his dark plan, he folds under the weight of her words, and they return to her house, rekindling their romance. Kara and Turs trail them back to Violeta's apartment but find no opportunity to intervene. Later, Elmer visits China and confronts her after discovering that Sabella had been threatening them again. China had lied, she hadn't cancelled the hit job she had previously set up. Enraged, Elmer accuses his mother of constantly manipulating him and turning him into a killer. He decides to move out, warning her to stay away from Violeta. Determined to retaliate, China reaches out to an old associate, Orson, setting the stage for future trouble. Meanwhile, Elmer asks Violeta if he can stay at her place for a few days. She happily agrees and gives him a set of keys the next morning. That same morning, Kara continues digging into the case. Despite Turs' hesitation to act without a warrant, she sneaks into China's garden to test the soil with a blue light. Her suspicions are confirmed when she finds evidence of human remains. She sends the damning photos to Turs, strengthening their case against China. Meanwhile, Elmer lies to Violeta about needing to meet a client. Instead, he heads to Sabella's house, spotted on the way by Cataxa, who finds his behavior suspicious and leaves Violeta a worried voicemail. Unaware, Violeta doesn't check her phone. Elmer sneaks into Sabella's house, confronting her. A brutal knife fight breaks out. Sabella manages to injure Elmer with a stab to his chest, but ultimately, Elmer overpowers and kills her. Bleeding, he staggers back to Violeta's house, concocting a lie about being injured by a cactus. Trusting him, Violeta tends to his wound, oblivious to the dark events unfolding around her. Episode 6 starts with Violeta and Elmer waking up happily together in the morning, but Elmer seems a bit on edge and leaves soon after. He heads straight home to tell China that he killed Sabella and hands over the money he stole from her place. China isn't surprised, she knows her son too well. Instead, she tries to convince him to leave Violeta behind and escape with her to Mexico, insisting that once Violeta learns the truth, she will never accept him again. Meanwhile, Violeta listens to Cataxa's voicemail and finds Sabella's earrings on Elmer's clothes. It doesn't take her long to connect the dots. She quickly packs her things and runs, unaware that Orson is following her. She stops by a remote beach spot and leaves Elmer a voicemail, telling him she knows everything and is leaving. She promises to give him enough time to disappear before she goes to the police. Sadly, she never gets the chance. Orson attacks her and drags her to another hidden location. Back in town, Turs and Kara are working hard to gather more evidence but are stuck waiting for a search warrant. They meet with a professor specializing in body decomposition, who agrees to help after seeing the pictures Kara took of China's garden. Once they finally get the warrant, they raid China's garden but find nothing. China, having seen Kara lurking around earlier, had Orson move the bodies the night before. In a twist of fate, Violeta manages to overpower Orson and kills him. She grabs his phone and calls Elmer, who by now has heard her voicemail and is panicking. She quickly tells him she's in trouble. Without hesitation, Elmer drops everything and rushes to save her. China is left stunned as her son abandons their escape plan. She tries calling Orson for an update, but instead, Violeta answers the phone. Elmer reaches Violeta, confesses everything, and together they stage Orson's death to look like an accident. They plant Sabella's jewelry on him to frame him for her murder. Meanwhile, Violeta's friends, worried after not hearing from her, head to the police station to report her missing. The officers ask them to wait for Kara and Turs, but before they can meet the detectives, Violeta calls and reassures them she's fine. She even convinces Cataxa that Elmer could never hurt anyone, completely unaware of how ironic her words are. After disposing of the body, Violeta and Elmer say their goodbyes and head home separately. With no concrete evidence, and after a scolding from their chief, Kara and Turs are forced to close the investigation. Back at home, Elmer confronts China about putting a hit on Violeta. A brutal argument follows, with Elmer accusing his mother of choosing money over him. He threatens to destroy the blood money. But China refuses, and when Elmer tries to leave, she knocks him out and rushes him to the hospital. She lies, telling doctors that Elmer fell and hit his head. With China's consent, they operate on him to remove the growing tumor. Meanwhile, Violeta decides to leave town, tearfully saying goodbye to her friends. After surgery, Elmer survives but is emotionally hollow. He never forgives China for making the decision behind his back. The series closes with Violeta reappearing out of the blue. Smiling slyly, she asks to hire Elmer for his services.